Start game now. Welcome, retro fans, to another edition of the No Swear Gamer. That mysterious masked man, the Masked Pack, is back. Yep, the pro wrestler has brought with him another version of Title Match Pro Wrestling, this time for the Atari 7800, and wow, it's just label art. I do like the kind of gold lettering, reminds me of 1980s WWF, back when they had the silver metallic letters. But yeah, when you compare it to the 2600 cartridge, I'll tell you which one I prefer, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and put the 7800 into our Pro system and see how this version holds up. Let's go to the game. Title Match Pro Wrestling for the Atari 7800 was brought out by Absolute and carries a copyright year of 1989, making it 2 years later than its 2600 brother. Of course, this is a wrestling game for 1 or 2 players. There's 2 modes, just like the 2600 version, one-on-one or tag team. Both modes are the best 2 out of 3 falls. Now, if you play a tag team match against another human opponent, each person will control their own tag team. There is no tagging up as far as humans go. No humans, you must fight each other. Now, in the game, you have 4 wrestlers to choose from. The bald guy is Skinhead. The masked guy is Mr. Mean. The Native American, who is still way too red, is Big Chief. And the African American guy is Mad Dog. And I think in this version, when you play the game, they actually mixed up Skinhead and Mad Dog at the selection screen. But oh well. Let's go ahead and rename these guys, but let's give them different names than I did in the 2600 episode. So let's see. Let's make the Native American Tatanka. How about Mad Dog becomes the Junkyard Dog? That would be cool. Mr. Mean, how about he becomes Demolition Axe, or I guess it could be Smash if you prefer. And for the bald-headed guy, let's make him Bobby the Brain Heenan, who just got into a confrontation with Brutus the Barber Beefcake and went to the Rick Rude School of Muscle Building and has decided to finally get himself into shape so he can finally stand up for himself. Yep, that'll work just fine with me. In the game, if you're holding up on the joystick and press the button, you will punch, and if you're holding down and press the button, you will kick. Now, this is a single-button game. They could have made a 2-button game out of this because it's a 7800 game and use both the buttons, but they didn't, which really baffles my mind. Now, when you punch or kick, you will rapidly decrease your opponent's strength meter, which is at the top of the screen, but no matter how many times you punch or kick them, and no matter how far the strength meter falls, you will never knock them down. You need to grab them first. And this is where the game has some problems because grabbing them is very hard. Now, the manual calls it a bear hug, and in order to do this, you have to press towards and the button at the same time. Now, once you do this, you can do a series of several moves. If you press up in the button, you will lift them up above their head, and if you press down in the button, you will slam them down on the canvas. Now, if you press towards them in the button, you'll begin to spin them around to throw them against the ropes. Now, when you have the opponent carried above your head, you can press up in the button to do a backdrop or down in the button to do a body slam. When you finally get your opponent down, if you press up in the button, you will lift them up again. If you press down in the button, you will do an elbow drop and try and pin him. And if you push left or right in the button, you will grab him back in a bear hug. If your opponent is down, you can also climb up on the ropes by pushing up in the button. And if you push up in the button again, you will dive down on them, or you can press down on the button to climb back down. This game also features something that's called muscle mode, and it's used for basically getting an advantage. So for instance, if your opponent has you in a bear hug and you want to break out, you use muscle mode by jiggling the joystick left and right. Or if you're being pinned, you could do the same thing to try and break the pin. Or if you're pinning your opponent, you can jiggle the joystick left to right to try and keep your opponent down. In a tag team match, you can also tag your partner in by going down to where he is and pressing down and the button. However, this can only happen if your opponent has full energy. You can tell if he has full energy is if when you get close to him, he will follow you around to the left or right. If he doesn't follow you, he needs to rest longer. Graphically speaking, I thought this game looks really good on the 7800. The guys are nice and big and muscular. I like the arena. I thought it looked really good as far as a wrestling game goes. It looks pretty much about as good as you can look, even though I do think he kind of looks like a Bobo from the series Double Dragon. And I do wish that the Native American wasn't so red. I think they could have done without that. The sounds are pretty much exactly the sounds that you heard from the 2600, which aren't really much, but they do okay job. And actually, because of the improved graphics, I think the graphics actually make the sounds seem better, even though they're just the same. Now, it is a moderately family-friendly game because it is wrestling and you do have some cartoony violence to it. Now, on eBay, this game was very hard to find. I only saw complete copies and they typically went for about $16, and that includes shipping. So would I recommend Title Match Pro Wrestling on the 7800? Sadly, no. I want this wrestling game to work, but it doesn't, and it doesn't improve that much on the 2600 version. It does a little bit, the graphics look a lot better, and it makes the controls a little easier to pull off as far as grabbing the guys, but again, it has the same problems. You'll find yourself mashing buttons at the beginning, punching and kicking, and the problem is when you go to grab a guy, it is so difficult to pull off that oftentimes you're mashing your button as soon as you grab him, you already pull off a move before you know what you're doing. It's usually not the move you want to do, and pinning can be quite a chore as well. So just trying to even get one pinfall is difficult enough, but trying to get 2 out of 3 I found to be near impossible. I did find it humorous though, the way that they dance around the ring if they do win a match, especially when the tag team guys do. I thought that was funny. But overall, I would say that this is a pass. So where am I going to rank it? Well, because it's so hard to control, sadly, it's going to go all the way to the bottom. That's right, I'd rather play any other game I've reviewed up until this point than Title Match Pro Wrestling. And it's a shame because it looked really good, and if the controls were a little better and maybe they used the second button, maybe they could have got something out of this title. But as it is, this is just a jobber that deserves to lose. If you enjoy the 7800, don't forget you can check out my podcast where I cover this game and others on the Atari 7800 Game by Game podcast, which you can find on iTunes. Thank you guys for giving me a little part of your day. If you like this video, would you please click the like and subscribe button? I'd appreciate that. And don't forget you can check me out on Facebook and Twitter as well. Thanks again, guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time, hopefully with a better game, on the next episode of The No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.